All right, guys, let's get away from this mess that I've created so far and go right down to here, which is the most important aspect of a story. Anybody want to hazard a guess to what the most important aspect of the story is? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? No? No takers? All right, here we go. Starts with a C. This is a really easy thing to fill in. Oh my gosh, conflict. If you do not have conflict, you do not have a story. I cannot say that enough. So let's kind of start to unpack this a little bit. There are five types of conflict that you can have in a story. And we're going to run into all of these, in our short story studies. And, when you guys are watching films and everything else, you guys are going to be able to see these really, really clearly. So there are five different types of character conflict. And we can say character versus, we can call him the protagonist. The protagonist is the hero of the story. The antagonist is the anti-hero. He's the opposite of the hero. He's the villain. Sorry, I didn't mean to say anti-hero. That actually is something. It's when we're not supposed to like our protagonist, but we like him anyway. Think about Macbeth in Shakespeare, or think about Walter White in Breaking Bad, or any of these other heroes that you're not supposed to root for because morally and ethically they're doing wrong things, but we actually tend and we're supposed to root for. Daredevil's kind of an anti-hero too, and Batman in a way is an anti-hero. So protagonist, antagonist. Actually, that's our first conflict: character versus character. This is bad guy versus good guy, hero versus villain. Okay. Um, most typical type of conflict that you can ever find. Next, going down the list, we've got character versus nature. My goodness, we've got a ton of examples of that. The movie Twister. We've got a ton of movies like Backdraft, where they're fighting fires, or these other things like that. These are natural elements that that the protagonist has to face. Protagonist versus fire or flood, or earthquake or iceberg, or anything like that. That's character versus nature. Maybe even The Martian. When you think about it, guys stuck on Mars has to face the elements himself, has to solve technology to help himself to survive. It's kind of man versus nature. And even books like Into the Wild, that is character versus nature. Then we've got character versus society. This is when society gets in the way between the character and his own goals. Okay, so here we're talking about these kinds of societies that are either racist, or they're homophobic, or they're gender biased, or there's just something wrong with society that they're really that they're getting in the way of the character's goals. I think of the classic movie Pleasantville. Yeah, you guys are too young for Pleasantville. You guys have never heard of this movie, or even Selma. That's something that's more recent, where Dr. King is conveyed as on one of his peace marches, marching against the confines of society. Then we've got something fun. We've got character versus the supernatural. Is this character versus God? Well, kind of. Is this Ghostbusters? Yes, it is. This is absolutely Ghostbusters. Okay, but it's also a movie like Alien. Okay, it's also a movie, believe it or not, like the movie Jaws. Well, hang on a sec. Jaws is about a shark. Isn't that character versus nature? No. That shark is badass. That shark is supernatural. There is no shark that is ever going to operate like that. Thing is a monster. Okay? That is not normal. That is supernatural. That thing does not belong on Earth. It is scary. Okay? What does that mean? That Jurassic Park might be character versus supernatural? Maybe. Some might argue that as character versus nature, but Jaws is a crazy animal, and that thing is not normal at all. He is an alien unto himself, I think. So consider that. Character versus supernatural. Sometimes there'll be ghosts, sometimes there'll be aliens, sometimes they'll just be crazy monsters that, are roaming the earth. And then finally, character versus a really important one, guys. One that gets overlooked a lot is character versus his self or herself. But here we're going to label it oneself. Character versus oneself. Here we've got an internal struggle. This is where, and I might say he, but it could be she. But the character, the hero, has this internal struggle within him. He's got to make decisions. He's got to make choices, but he doesn't know what to make. And he's going back and forth with himself. This is character versus oneself, okay? So 5 kinds of conflict for character versus character, character versus nature, character versus society, character versus supernatural, character versus him or herself. Very important. Know what you're looking at, okay, guys? Here we go. Next up, elements of character. Oh, there's a new one.